Welcome back to The Future is Bright. We're now joined by another special guest and committee chair of the Autism Society of America, Andres Filippi. He's the Strategic Planning Committee chair this year, and he has some interesting things to talk about what the Autism Society is working on internally and outwardly within the community to try to make things better for everyone. Andres, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. Can you give the folks a little bit of background about kind of what you do as the committee chair and what you've been working on outwardly lately?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest things that I have to do is come in and suspend any opinions that I've got, right? So I can come in and really listen to what's going on in the organization, from the folks at the very front line that are serving families every day, to the people who are running affiliates, to the national office, to our partners, to our sponsors, and anybody in that ecosystem. And so we've really been looking at is trying to understand, where are we going directionally? Where do we need to go? What's going to be American society in 5-10 years that our community has to live in? And in the course of doing that, really focusing on two things. What do we got to do to support those families from the mission perspective of the organization? And then internally, what do we got to do to help the different parts of the organization be better, be able to deliver the capabilities they need to deliver in a way that our families need them? So it's both internally focused and externally focused.
So externally, you said that you take into consideration certain factors that will affect where American society will be in, let's say, 5-10 years. What are some of the things that you look at when you try to ascertain what needs to be done?
So for example, if you think about when this society got started 50 years ago, and you think about what was there in the 60s or what was there in the 70s, and the way people interacted, just normal people on a regular basis,
Sure.
right? You might have a telephone call, and that was an excitement thing. Now, when you think about people today, they don't communicate by telephone, they communicate by text, and it's instant. Why aren't you responding to me in the
Right.
next 20 seconds, right?
Okay.
Not 3 days later. So, for example, just that technology that the current generation, the young generation that's coming up uses, and how they use it is very different than how the older generations do it. So we got to be prepared for that. We got to take advantage of that, because that's the world that the youngsters that are now growing up and the young adults are going to be living in for the next 50, 60 years.
Okay.
And so it's looking at how do we change the way we operate to take advantage of that, as opposed to ignoring that or not taking that into account, and then not really being able to do what we can for families because of that limitation.
Okay, so going on what you're talking about now is insofar as technology is concerned, and this sort of age of instant gratification of why aren't you answering me now and so forth. Within the realm of, let's say, the community of individuals affected by autism or who have family members affected by autism, how does that change, and how has this evolution affected what you're doing to try to get them better services or better response, or what are you actually doing to address those changes that you see as being so notable?
So I think one of the biggest things, Stefanie, is that trying to get the connections between the parts of the organization, particularly the local affiliates, a lot tighter, and not necessarily instantaneous, but having them know who they can call to rely on, for a particular piece of information, because every affiliate doesn't have expertise in every single thing.
Sure.
So if you've got an affiliate over in the northeast part of the country that's really good, for example, about dealing with health insurance issues, and an affiliate in another states getting ready to tackle that, rather than for them to try to figure out who knows it, is having that information at their hand, having the resources, the people that are experienced to do it, and how to translate that into success in terms of how they approach their state legislatures. And I use that just as a for instance, right?
Sure.
Technologically speaking, is how can we get different types of technology platforms out there that they can leverage right now in their communities the way their communities need to see it. So for example, if you're in a particular community, it's got a demographic population of a lot of immigrants from a particular background or country that's very different from another one, you might engage them in a very different way. So it's being much more savvy about the culture side and ethnicity side, faith-based. How do you engage that community in a much more effective way, rather than trying to create a cookie-cutter recipe, one-size-fits-all,
Sure.
which really doesn't work in a lot of communities.
Sure. So from a tangible, I guess what I'm going at is, if you had to talk about tangibles, and you have this community of, let's say, people who are faith-based or have a more culturally driven way of gaining information, versus, let's say, another part of the country and an affiliate that does it a completely different way, what are you doing to try to bring these affiliates together to a point where they can then filter down that information to the community in a way that's easily accessible? Is there something tangible that
Yeah, there's actually
going
several
on?
different initiatives that we got going. For example, one is how do we leverage best practices that one particular affiliate has and make that not just available, but really train the folks in the other affiliates and say, hey, this is what worked, this is what doesn't work, and getting that out there and having a peer-to-peer conversation, enabling that.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a physical come together. It's using technology, whether it's a webinar, whether it's video conferencing, whatever, to get that out there,
Okay.
and getting the supports in place for that. I think another thing, besides, for example, doing the best practice sharing, is in this day of the internet, and people get an answer and they don't accept it. They say, I'm going to go dig out
Sure.
and find out.
Second opinion, third opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got all these opinions, so helping them figure out what is just opinion and what is based in fact, what is based in evidence, what has worked in different contexts, and getting those connections, because there's so much stuff to sift through.
Sure.
Sometimes that's the challenge, is getting to the information you want. So creating some tools that allow them to really navigate to what they want in a much quicker fashion, so they're not spending their time wasting on that. They're spending that extra time that they've now found serving their families.
Right. And as you and I speak, we're actually at the 46th Annual National Conference. So is there training that's being implemented for these affiliates in attendance to try to help them to do just what you said, best practices? What's going on
Absolutely.
here?
Like, for example, this past Wednesday, we spent an entire day with a large body of affiliates and their local boards.
Okay.
And we spent the first half of the day talking about what's coming up in the strategic plan, what does this mean to you?
Okay.
But one of the things that we really emphasized is we had affiliates talking to affiliates, because one of the things we've been very specific about is being very inclusive. So the voice, not just the voice of the affiliates, but really they have helped shape the direction of the plan. And so then the affiliates were talking to their peers. Here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and
Right.
here's what that's going to mean to you. And then we took a specific instance in the afternoon. For example, we had this event coming up called the Big Give.
Okay.
And so we talked about that, and we gave them a lot of specific tools to help them prepare for that, how that's going to be. So it's both big picture planning and getting them framed around that, as well as here's a very specific instance they can go back
Sure.
and immediately start to implement.
So it sounds like it's mostly about trying to implement teamwork in a way
Yes.
that the flow of information is uniform and helps people to not have to be wasting a lot of time to get the information that they need.
Right.
Okay.
That's a key component.
Okay. So going off of that, you mentioned something very exciting that we should probably talk about, which is the Big Give, which is, I think, September 17th. Is
Yes.
that right? So tell us about the Big Give. What is the essence of that, and what are we hoping to accomplish?
I think the core essence of that is really raising awareness, but doing it in a very cohesive and comprehensive way. Instead of having, for example, each affiliate go off and do a one-off fundraising event, and it's very scattered and not connected, this is a way to do it all in one time, in one place, but do it as a network. And so that we're each supporting each other, and by doing that, we're actually having a much, much broader reach.
Mm-hmm.
And then also not just stopping there, but saying, all right, what's the follow-on programs that now get kick-started or launched
Right.
as a result of that Big Give?
So you're putting in the forethought to make sure that some follow-up gets done. And if I'm not misunderstanding you, a large part of the Big Give will be social media driven, won't
Absolutely.
it? Okay, so that's fabulous because it's easier for people to stay connected that way. So you're hearing it here from Andres that the Big Give is September 17. It's going to be a big chance for us to raise money for the autistic, anyone affected by autism or living within the autism community. And if you're an affiliate and you're watching this, you can gain information by going to the general website of the Autism Society of America to get more specifics about how you can help and be connected together and make the most of that day. Is that right?
Absolutely. And in addition, my contact information is on that site, and I encourage everybody, particularly affiliates,
Sure.
give me a shout, give Sergio a shout, who you'll be speaking
Great.
to soon, and we'll get you connected if you're not already connected, because we have been trying to get everybody as wrapped in as we can.
Good. So it sounds like you're doing a lot to really generate information out there and make it accessible to everyone. So you can contact Andres Filippi directly at, what is your email?
So it's Andres Filippi at the Autism Society.
Fantastic.
But it's all on the website.
And
so
it's
you
all
can,
on the general website. So
Absolutely.
anything that you need is there, and it sounds like the Strategic Planning Committee has their hands full and is busy creating new avenues for people to try to get uniform information and be more connected with other affiliates around the country. Thank you so much for the good work you've been doing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure having
Appreciate
you on
it.
the show. Thanks.